Hello, aspirants. Welcome to Insights IAS initiative. So, in this episode, let us cherry pick some important, interesting topics from the past 3 days and try to analyze them in a crisp manner. So, the first topic today will be a judgment related to Gujarat High Court. So, as you see here, it is about Anganwadi workers and Anganwadi helpers who are recruited just like how a civil employee of a state government is recruited, but they face many discrimination or wage disparities. And because of this, there were many demands coming up from Anganwadi workers to make sure they are treated on par with other workers. So if you see the role of an Anganwadi worker, she has an important role in the integrated child development scheme, which actually focuses on child health, focuses on the health of women, especially pregnant women and lactating mothers. So the Anganwadi workers are picked up from local community, hence they'll have a lot of edge on dealing with local people in an easy manner. They are called as frontline honorary worker, as in all the scheme of ICDS success rests on these Anganwadi workers, and they serve as an agent of social change by ensuring institutional deliveries and proper nutrition to the newborn children and mother. They also mobilize community support for better care. So with this advantage, Anganwadi workers are most of the time underpaid. So quickly, first let us look into what are the issues faced by Anganwadi workers. So the first one is most of these workers have been recruited long back when ICDS scheme was started. So they have worked more than 10 years of service. They have 10 years of service and almost more than 6 hours per day of work. Despite this, they are given just an honorarium. That is, an Anganwadi worker gets around rupees 10,000 per month and an Anganwadi helper gets around rupees 5,000 per month, which is very much less when we compare it to state government employees. The third issue is the same one, that is, they are not treated on par with state government employees with respect to many benefits that they get, which also include social security benefits. So this is a lacunae here. The fourth one here is about they're not given, they have been given more responsibilities when it comes to implementing an important nutritional sector scheme in the country. However, their pay is extremely less. Many of the time Anganwadi workers have given up the work due to this. Why this problem is another question. So the High Court has pointed out the women here have no bargaining power. That is, they come from weaker sections of the society and do not have economic empowerment or a group which can argue for them. So this is due to lack of bargaining capacity that they have been facing the issue. So under this regard, government has given, that is Supreme Court has given direction to the central state government and central government as in how to improve the lot of Anganwadi workers. So the first one or the first direction is very much important. They have directed the center and the state to declare Anganwadi workers and Anganwadi helpers as regular employees of state government. So this regularization will help them to come on par with local, or we can say the civil workers. The second direction given by the Supreme Court, High Court here is a policy has to be formulated within 6 months from the date of this judgment for regularization of work. So what is the milestones they are going to use to legalize the work of the Anganwadi workers is the question here. Third one, the other direction is to address the aspects of pay, in which class, or let's say group 1, group 2, group 3 or group 4, in which category they are going to place. There should be a clarity on this. What should be the pay scale that has to be properly determined in this policy, and from which date the workers will be receiving the arrears, or that is the fixed date in which they'll receive all the amount that they are yet to be paid. So these three directions are very much relevant by the Anganwadi workers. So here group 3 status is suggested for Anganwadi workers, group 4 for Anganwadi helpers. So where this topic is relevant for us. So as we know, GS paper 2 has governance related topic where we are often asked to analyze various schemes that are issued by the government, in which one of them could be integrated child development scheme. We can also talk about issues like national issues like Janani Suraksha Yojana, Matritva Sahyog Yojana, all these schemes which have a major impact on nutrition, which have a role in reducing infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, reduce malnourishment, hunger. It all rests on the onus of two major stakeholders. One is Anganwadi workers, other is ASHA workers. But the issue is, as the court has pointed out, they do not have a bargaining power and have always been paid less with respect to the huge responsibility that they take up. So in critically analyze all these schemes, we can quote the High Court judgment in very well manner. And even when we talk about gender parity in GS paper 1, this issue of Anganwadi workers is very much relevant as a case study. When we talk about health sector in GS paper 2, again, nutritional security, national nutrition mission, why India is still a country which is faring very bad on global hunger index, we can give the suggestion of motivating Anganwadi workers and ASHA workers to give their best so that we deal with micronutrition security in a great manner, right? So this could be a critical example of how we have a good mechanism, but this mechanism is not provided proper financial security and occupational safety, which is which is enabling or which is making sure that the potential of Anganwadi and ASHA workers is not used to the best. So the next topic will be a topic that's relevant for us in GS paper 1, Indian society, and mainly essay related issues, right? So here if you see that after Trump's win, some women are considering the 4B movement. So there is a trend on the internet and on the ground going on for replicating this 4B movement. That's originally a concept that was practiced in South Korea, right? So this 4B movement began in South Korea as a form of a feminist movement, right? So it was sweeping South Korea, in which women were saying no to any form of intimate relationships with men. So this B in South Korea is a prefix, means telling me no. So why no? For what all things they're planning to tell a no? It is that no heterosexual marriages, are to be accepted, no to childbirth, no to dating, and no to any types of physical intimacy with a partner. So why we are talking about this? This is a fight, or this is a kind of vocal argument started by women groups or feminist group to highlight the importance of women in one of the important activities of intimacy in a person's life. So by withdrawing from this intimate activity, women want to prove a point that if no women, men can also not have a equal footing. So why all of a sudden this issue of 4B has propelled in US? It is against the victory of Donald Trump. So victory of Donald Trump, just to know a background, you just have to understand that in many of his political campaigns, Donald Trump has been a misogynist. By according to many, misogynist is a person who has negative perceptions towards the rights of a woman. So many of his comments go on to tell that a woman doesn't have a right over her body. He's a person who denies abortion rights to women. So a defeat to Kamala Harris or a victory to Donald Trump means that the idea of gender equality in US has come down. So as we see in the entire voting, the total men of USA have been contributing to more than 53% of vote share of Donald Trump. So women of US are trying to take a revenge or kind of teach a lesson to the men who choose Donald Trump over another candidate who spoke about gender equality. So this issue you can just remember because in USA women have a major role in electoral context. We had discussed this in one of our few episodes. You can revisit that. So voting patterns are directed by women, where majority of the times women fare more than men in voting. Policy priorities, if gender becomes a consideration of vote, campaigners will talk about women rights, which is the best point for women's empowerment. Stereotypes and biases would be eradicated if women come to power, or people who are in favor of gender rights come to power. Gender equality becomes a campaign issue then. And impact of gender narratives, this is an example, as in how a person who is saying no to gender equality, the society has responded, or the women have responded in a negative way. So this is just an example for us to check the idea that of late social media has been a platform where women who do not have actual voices in the real life are using the platform to come out and share their pain, and share it with the people who are victims of a similar pain. So as we take in case of South Korea, this 4B movement was originally against gender based violence, where many women were found to be killed just because they were women, and as they didn't cooperate with men in many of the daily activities. So we can also talk about Me Too movement, which a few years ago in 2016 gave a platform to women who had been suffering sexual assault secretly in their lives. They got a courage to talk about it in a social media platform. And we also have a campaign called Bring Our Girls Back is a campaign where in the state of Nigeria, in the country of Nigeria, the Boko Haram terror group had kidnapped around 100 girls, and till now we do not know the whereof about them. Hence, this is an example of how women are using social media for uplifting their own causes. So this brings us to a question which you can attempt to write at the end of this session, and drop us the answer in the comment box. We will respond with a model answer for the question. So the question goes as, how is the idea of feminism evolving in the landscape of social media? So do try to cover multiple points. We will give the answer tomorrow in the next I Can episode. The next topic we'll discuss is with respect to fortification of rice. Fortification of rice has been seen as a solution to meet the malnutrition or undernutrition issue of Indian society. So, as we know, in rice fortification, the rice granules are mixed with iron, folic acid, and vitamin B12. So they are made into a powder, and it is put into an exture machine in which the rice pellets are coming out. These pellets are mixed with regular rice, and they are bagged and sent through public distribution system. So when people consume the fortified rice, the idea is that their micronutrient deficiency will be resolved. However, in a recent article in Deccan Herald, we were seeing some challenges of rice fortification, or how rice fortification is not going to be an easy way, or we can tell not the foolproof idea that the whole concept of nutrition deficiency can be addressed. So the first challenge, or first question, as in why fortification is not good, is related to no effective evidence being available. So though it was done for 2 years on a pilot basis, many food experts tell that there has been no major change in the nutritional status of people who have consumed fortified rice. So this, we can say, the universal application of fortification of rice in public distribution system is definitely might not result in a large scale success. So this is a challenge or a hiccup in the whole process. The second is universal applicability is a flawed idea. The reason being, in India, many people suffer from sickle cell anemia. There are patients suffering from thalassemia. There are patients suffering from tuberculosis. So, for patients of these diseases, it is advised to have a low iron diet. But if public distribution system just the jute bag is having fortified plus symbol, and this from the jute bag customers are given in plastic, individual plastic carriages on which there is no signage of whether the food is fortified or not. So even this plus food is in English language. So the authors of this article and some food experts are telling that this kind of idea of giving only fortified food in the public distribution system definitely has a toll on people who are suffering from these diseases, worsening their disease burden even more. At the same time, there is a question of conflict of interest that has arisen here. So we know that FSSAI is the organization that has given permission to food fortification, and one of the stakeholders in FSSAI's committee, which decided whether fortification has to be done or not, is Food Fortification Resource Center. And Food Fortification Resource Center has many members in it who have a lot of stakeholders in food related multinational companies. So these multinational companies are looking forward to be a contributory factor to fortification of rice, which shows that there is a conflict of interest. That is, a member who is part of food fortification or fortification companies is definitely going to give a positive impact on fortification so that their company gets benefited. So this conflict of interest was discussed in the article. Plus, diverse diets versus rice alone. So if we see the traditional Indian pattern, we have a food that is rich in millets, we have foods that are rich in carbohydrates, foods that have vegetables, non-vegetarian food. So these are a complex food part which is part of Indian diet. However, using the fortified rice process of public distribution system, we are somehow moving towards a rice alone diet, indirectly again pushing forwards to nutritional insecurity among the people. So these were some challenges. So what the author basically told is that the problem is in the structure of the food delivery system and not in the process of the food that we consume. So let us see what these structural challenges are. So the first one is inequality of sharing resources. That is, we do have many schemes where public gets access to food, but these resources are not adequate, pushing the people to consume the public distribution system driven by rich carbohydrate foods. So if we focus on distributing proper resources, the problem of micronutritional deficiency may not arise. The second is soil lack micronutrients. That is, due to green revolution, we have excessively used the NPK fertilizers, of which nitrogen or urea has been the dominant factor. So over fertilization of the soil has made the soil into a saline feature, which means that it lacks the important micronutrients that plants absorb from them, and this micronutrient in turn goes into human body for its nourishment. So when soil itself is lacking micronutrient, we cannot expect to have a human who's having complete micronutrient platter. So WHO has told how to eradicate malnutrition by including ideas like milk, egg, vegetables, locally available vegetables and fruits to make sure micronutritional deficiency is resolved. But food corporates are the entities who are talking about fortification, which seems to be an easy way, but if we have seen the flaws earlier, it comes with a lot of negatives. So please remember this for GS paper 3 agriculture topic, as in, let's say we get a question on, is fortification of rice a viable solution to bridge India's nutritional security? It could be asked in paper 2 in this context as well, and agriculture as well, rice production and consumption pattern, we can relate this topic to that as well. The next topic we'll discuss is directly related to GS paper 1 Indian society. We have seen in the year 2023 that UPSC in paper 1 has asked the question, is the institute of marriage losing its sanctity in India? So if we get questions like that, we can have a good idea with the answer that we are going to discuss now. So not everybody wants to say I do. It is related to an article based in Indian Express magazine called I. So in this, we see that there is a great trend going on in the world where people, especially in India, where people are rejecting the idea of marriage and are preferring various other alternative forms of relationships. This term is relevant. Alternative forms of relationships. So, how is this relevant for modern times? Or if we get a question, is marriage as an institution weakening in India? These analysis would be relevant. So, if we ask the question why, the answer is people are having an idea that marriage is the only way of expressing one's love to a partner. While of late, the present generation is asking, is marriage the only pivot way of expressing one's love? And they are disputing with it. So, the role of marriage in strengthening the idea of love is no more a belief among the young people who would better prefer to be in a cohabitation or live-in relationship rather than entering into a wedlock. So the second thing is the younger generation of late has started feeling that marriage is a very complex challenge. There needs to be a lot of works to be put on to make a marriage successful, for which the younger generation is not ready. So this complex challenge is something that is pushing people not to marry. The third one is two important ideas that are coming up. Please do quote them in your answers, either in paper 4, paper essay paper, or even in our paper 1. So, parenthood without motherhood. So, there are many couple of late who are preferring to have a child through a legal surrogacy, and they are preferring or they are adopting children based on the religion that they are following, and these two are being done by men mainly without marriage or without a mother. The same applies with the case of women also, who are entering into parenthood without fatherhood. So remember, this is a new term you can use in your answer, that is parenthood without motherhood. And the next concept that is a trend in marriage market is singlehood. There are many people who are choosing to be single over marriage, and their consideration could be importance given to one's career, importance given to one's own identity, and the idea that we don't need an emotional backup in the form of a marriage to be secured or safe. So this singlehood is increasingly becoming popular and also accepted in the Indian society. According to Youth in India report, it is seen that earlier there were only 17% people who believe that marriage is not an important part of their life. Today, there are 23% of Indians who believe that marriage is not a sole determining factor in their life. So, this shows that the idea of marriage is changing to a great extent. And some students or some youngsters are of the opinion that marriage brings in a lot of economic commitment of owning a house, taking care of the children's education, uh, and going on many other activities to commit to a marriage. So these economic factors is considered to be a burden and can be avoided as a person is either alone or doesn't have a spouse. So these economic factors, as we are seeing in case of China as well, economic factor is the main reason are people preferring not to marry, right? So some women, young women, are feeling that in a traditional wedlock they would not be able to enjoy a respectable space. They would be burdened with gender based labor or gender division of labor, and this is not their preference as they choose to be independent. So the respectful face of space for women not being in certain marriages, women are going out of this idea. And the last but a very crucial point here is rising number of divorces and legal baggage. That is, the younger generation is seeing that there are many couples who are getting divorced irrespective of many promises of keeping together. And once a person is divorced, there's a huge amount of legal barricades that exist. The whole process of going to court, getting a divorce, paying alimony is not only a financial burden but also the pressure of social pressure into which usually consider divorce as a taboo even now, right? So these are the main reasons why the women usually don't want to go for marriage, and other reasons apply to both the genders, right? So this author was also talking about, is this a new trend Or was marriage one of the most important purposes of a person's life? Or we have any other references? So historical references tell that Brahmavadinis, that is women like Gargi, who were in the ancient time focusing on literature and philosophy, they stayed alone till the end of their life and never married. Leelavati, a mathematician, used to earn money by her mathematics skills and chose to stay alone throughout her life. Vedavyas, an important poet, raised his son all alone without marriage, and many times Gandharva relationships were approved, which means that people in love could stay with each other. So, to India, the idea of this kind of marriages is definitely not a new one. The society just needs to brace with it. So the last topic of the day is from the Ramayana. So this topic, the Ramayana within us, was given in the Hindus magazine. So usually we aspirants have a practice of skipping the magazine and newspaper of Indian Express, but many a times they do have a very good content in them. So we'll make that work easier for you at ICANN. Right? So here, this article was written by a retired judge of the High Court who tells that Ramayana has many ethical values in it, and how every, we can say, prominent member in Ramayana teaches us many ethical values. So starting with Rama. So I think you know the application of this topic. In GS paper 4, we have a topic called ethics from religious sources, or religion as acting as a source of ethics. So definitely Ramayana is a folklore that most of the Indian children have been raised in their childhood with. So the ideas of Rama and the other protagonists go a long way in imparting ethical values. So Rama, the idea of Rama mentions righteousness, righteousness of the cause and moral duty. Right? So many judgments that we take in our daily life, we can apply this to the life of a bureaucrat as well. So even the life of a bureaucrat, we have to give fair and judgments that are based on ethical principles. So acting justly even during challenges is something we can learn from the life of Rama. The king Rama could be a better application here. And the second important protagonist of the play being Sita Ma. So Sita is known for her unwavering emotions and resilience. So if you know the story of Ramayana, the Queen Sita is having to face a lot of emotional turmoil, and despite all this has a lot of resilience in her life. So dealing with emotional labor is something we can learn from Sita. And in the life of civil servants, if you see, there are many a times we need to deal with our emotions in a very quick manner, but making sure we identify our emotions and respond accordingly instead of spontaneously reacting is something we can learn from Sita's protagony. The next important character here is Hanuman, we can talk about. So Hanuman is about devotion and courage. Devotion and courage as an idea. So especially when it comes to confronting uncomfortable truth, or facing a voice or becoming a voice to a weaker generation or weaker section of the society, and lot of opposition exists for it. So the idea of Hanuman's courage stands still, and that is a good lesson we can learn from Ramayana. And last but not the least, the important character who is having a role in Ramayana is Ravana. So, as we have in ethics, the distinction between virtue and vice, UPSC has many a times asked about the vices. That is, it has asked questions on anger, it has asked questions on fear, it can ask question on jealousy, which are vices or anything that makes a person's life in a negative way. So Ravana's a few ideas are also associated here about ego. One of the ideas is ego, that is placing one's own intentions all the time above the others. We can say unchecked desire. So this has been driven by ambitious goals ever through his life. So this ideas enable us to see that having qualities like this will definitely lead to downfall in a long run. Though the Ravana's idea is that initially he was successful, but very slowly it is so seen that ego blinds where wisdom should reign. So all these ideas about Ramayana is focusing nothing on the but the idea of introspection. So if you see, UPSC essay question has already been asked related to the role of introspection in a person's life. An unexamined life is not worth living. So in such cases, we need not just think about how to go for self introspection. Many of our religious pictures point out as in how every individual who played a role there has faced many challenges, and how their actions in those challenges are a learning lessons for us. So, with this, we will end today's ICANN initiative. Do write the answer for the question that we have given, and we encourage you to share it with your friends who are actually struggling with answer writing. And please let us know which other topics you would like us to focus on when we are trying to pick up topics that are quite different and unique from everyday newspapers and some of the social media posts. So, stay with us and meet you on Wednesday. Thank you.